So I think might as well get started. You and me, Chicken Nuggy Bot. Let's do this thing. So what I was thinking would be a good time of year to just do a haunted house. But what kind of haunted house? There's lots of different kinds of haunted houses, right? The idea I had was something along the lines of the Dollmaker kind of trope. So there's a person, somebody who makes haunted dolls because creepy dolls are creepy. Um, Tropes are kind of like baskets. They aren't the characters themselves. So I want to think of some things about this character that will make them somewhat compelling, more than just, oh, there's a crazy person who lives in a haunted house and everybody knows you don't go to that haunted house because it's creepy. Um, and there's like a creepy old person who lives there and turns people into dolls. Um, so they need some kind of motivation or why they started. And there might be the question of what were they like before they were the doll maker? Um, now that I'm thinking about it, there was a very recent kind of doll maker trope um, in the latest Resident Evil 8, I think, something like that. So I kind of want to avoid stepping on those elements. So things to avoid. In that case, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a mother whose child died? No, that's not right. Let me check. Come here, Resident Evil 8. Give me them spoilers again. Dollmaker. Donna Beneviento. Okay, so she was a doll maker. And what was it that triggered her? Doo-doo-doo. Parents committed suicide while she was a child. Um, Preferred to talk through her doll made by her father. Okay, so I kind of got it a little bit backwards. Instead of the kind of longing parent, it is the longing child. And she's replacing her family. All right. So let's avoid the dead parent thing. Um, Now, the remake family idea is kind of part and parcel, I think, of what the doll maker trope usually is about. So if we have like a mood, it's usually loneliness. It's usually something um, replacing loss or replacing a lack of a thing. I wonder, there might be an element of perfectionism, right? That's come up in this trope before, that the Dollmaker is trying to create a sort of ideal person in their head, and that ideal doesn't exist in reality, of course, so they have to try and create it. Um, which could give me an idea. Hang on. Hang on. Let me check out the D&D, the 5e deities. Goddess of winter, god of wizards, god of tyranny, misfortune, god of murder, agriculture, god of lies, god of writing, peace. Gond. A true neutral, god of craft. Neutral gods are interesting because even though the deities themselves are true neutral, their followers aren't necessarily neutral at all. They can fall into different sort of morality boxes. I'm going to write because I think that's kind of an interesting approach, that there's somebody kind of keying off of this perfectionism idea. Let's go ahead and bold that, of trying to create a perfect doll. So in D&D terms, that's usually some kind of construct. Of course, there's the Warforged, but they sort of exist separately already. I don't know that this is a person who would be creating more Warforged. Let me check real quick. Sometimes when you see some stuff, some pre-made stuff, it can help get the juices flowing a little bit. So I'm going to go to D&D Beyond and check what kind of constructs exist for their monster types. Construct. We want probably let's see. The monodrones, that's not really fitting into what I'm doing. Scarecrows, not really. There are carionets in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So I kind of wonder if there's something else. Yeah, the living doll. In Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So that's a thing. Golems, cobras. There's nothing here that's like just jumping out at me and really making me think, oh yeah, I totally want to use that. Hmm. Okay, so we could give them an angle from some kind of evil god, some kind of temptation. I think so. The basic idea is going to be something like this. And the doll maker is replaceable. They might not actually be making dolls. Um, so they've got this artistic aesthetic angle, and we'll want something else. If they're an artist, there's a couple of different directions these kind of artists can go. They can be like the misunderstood loner type, but I think in this case, I really want to make them a public figure. Hmm. Maybe they're not making dolls. Maybe they're making paintings or possibly sculptures. Okay, we're starting to cross out into some new territory here, I think. I do remember way back when in Final Fantasy VI, there's that side quest where you have to save an art collector from his haunted painting. What other cool painting stories are there? Dorian Gray is a pretty cool painting story, but I don't know that that quite gets into what we're looking for. The This could be interesting. This could be interesting. So instead of the artist making their own Dorian Gray painting and gaining eternal youth, eternal beauty, um, maybe they're offering it to other people. Maybe the Gond angle isn't what we're going for. We'll go ahead and cross that off. Um, the Dorian Gray service. I like that. So here's what's coming to mind. Oops. So there's a town full of unusually beautiful people. Rumor has it no one in this town ages, or probably it's actually going to be the very wealthy don't age because Um, let's say they create the okay, so that's one angle, kind of inverting part of the Dorian Gray story, making it not about the self, but about others. I kind of wonder what else might go into this. There might be some other angles. I mean, eventually the paintings just come alive, right? Maybe they attack and kill the painter, or maybe they just trap him. Right. We're looking for the downside. Why why this all goes wrong? Why do the adventurers have to step in at all? Um, so maybe another possibility is they require some kind of sacrifice, like they have to be fed in order to continue um, operating their dark magics here. I don't know about that, but it could be Stepford Wivesy, and that when you have your painting made, like a big chunk of the personality goes out along with it, right? Because it's taking everything that would be considered imperfect. Just remembering that Courage the Cowardly Dog. I'm not perfect. Hmm. Of course, if it's the very wealthy doing this to themselves, it's not that big of a step for the very wealthy to try and do it to other people. I won't just say the very wealthy, I'll just say if the patrons are doing this to themselves, it's not hard to imagine they cross a line and do it to other people, trying to make the whole town perfect. And of course, perfect to whom? Yeah, now I think we're starting to get somewhere. Now I think we're starting to get somewhere. Looking at something like looking at something like Hot Fuzz. I guess I won't go too far into that in case of spoilers, but the model town. Who's really behind this is a big question. Could be a painter is a demonic entity. No, no, you know what I like better? Oops. Okay, I think now we're getting somewhere. So I think this is a painter who probably um, is playing kind of an unwitting role. It's possible they're like a possibly not aware of their own magical talents. I think that might work. Um, hmm. Okay. Painters just humans. As sorcerers, maybe, not aware of their own magical talents. They're a struggling artist living in poverty when a patron approached them. The magical nature of the artist's paintings were apparent, and the patron offered to give the artist a studio to develop their talents. Unbeknownst to the painter, this would take a dark turn as they learned how to draw out the imperfections of their patron. Word gets out, and soon people are flocking to the town to have their portraits done. These portraits are never seen or shown. Okay, so now we're starting to get somewhere. Um, kind of want to make maybe a category. Let's call them the beauteous. No, the beatific. Okay. All right. All right. So I've spent about 25 minutes setting up the scene, but I think it was worth it. We've got a town. They've got this group of people called the Beatific, and these people are paying to have portraits made of them. And these portraits draw out all of what they consider their own imperfections. So that's going to require some work as well, because I think each person in this beatific category, it's going to be, uh, they're going to have their own unique thing going on in terms of, what they consider imperfect imperfect about themselves, what they consider something that should be abjected into these paintings. I don't know how many I can get away with. It might just be like 5. Um, Maybe something like that. Yeah. And if this is, I mean, if this is meant to be a one shot, I don't know that they necessarily are all going to be confronted individually. So there's probably going to be, I mean, the main confrontation will be with the patron, right? Um, so the patron is going to have to be defined in some way. Yeah, I mean, he's probably just a normal looking dude, um, who somehow became obsessed with this idea of creating a perfect self. God, is he like a self help guru? He might be. Um, High fantasy self help guru. Come have your portrait done. You'll be beautiful for the rest of your life. I can dig it. I can dig it. All right. So that can all be fleshed out another time. At the moment, I need to get into this house. So, um, yeah, it's the patron's house. We've got the patron, got the artist. We've got five portraits of the beatific. Um, So on the to-do list for once this is all done, we would need to homebrew. All right. So that will have to be worked out. Um, the artist, I just had a thought that maybe the artist, well, I don't think it'll work. I was thinking maybe the artist is taking on all of these imperfections and kind of ugly elements. But I don't think that really gets at what I want. Let me check D&D Beyond again. Because it might be they just use like a some kind of like spirit or ghost block as a base stat, or maybe a zombie. They'd have to be pretty cool zombies. But I kind of think it's more likely that there's some kind of ghost. The basic rules for ghosts are a little bit... They're pretty interesting, actually. Possession is always fun. The horrifying visage element where they age the person that they're looking at. Has a lot of role-playing implications, and I kind of wonder if that could be played with where it turns the PC into an abjected. I wonder what that would mean mechanically. Probably tanks charisma. Might also tank wisdom. Maybe we're looking at ghosts that drain stats. Okay. So let's get a layout of the house in mind. So for sure, the main artist studio is somewhere, probably a basement. A basement makes a lot of sense. So does an attic. I think I'll put it in... we can put it in a basement. So we've got 5 abjected paintings in all. So that means at least 5 rooms in the basement, probably a few more. Actually, the artist is probably almost kept prisoner. He's probably an unwilling participant in all of this. That would make sense. Um, so at least 5 galleries. Well, definitely 5 galleries. Uh, there would have to be at least a few other rooms. So the main rooms, I mean, we've got a master bedroom, got we'll say 2 guest beds, the kitchens, dining room, living room, probably a couple, some kind of receiving room, closets of various kinds. Uh, what am I missing? Maybe each abjected has their own freaking floor. I like that. Maybe not a whole floor. Something like that. So what I'm thinking is that the abjected portraits personality elements are leaking through into wherever it is they are. Um, maybe the okay, so let's just make a collection of stuff. Abjected one is the patron. He's got basically the whole basement. um, mm, we'll say kitchens and dining room. Uh, kind of area. I think probably all of the abjected are in. Okay, I got it. I got it. Okay, so Speaking of Resident Evil, right? We've got ourselves a nice little Resident Evil search for the keys kind of situation. So, uh, that said, each kind of abjected spirit is haunting a different region of the house. The patron's got, you know, um, the whole basement to himself. We've got the kitchens and dining room. Living rooms. Uh, I guess the patron's wife would probably be in here too. I'll make her number 6. Um, Master bedroom and maybe they have like a regular art gallery. Um, so we're starting to get some flow here for the house. Uh, probably the first, well, I guess not necessarily the first that they'll encounter is could probably be the kitchens and dining room person. Um, okay, so we're coming up on 15 minutes, which isn't a huge amount of time to flesh out details, but I think that just thinking of ghost types, poltergeists are pretty obvious, but I think these are and each poltergeist will kind of have their own thing going on. Okay. So looking at Ghost 2, probably all right, so they're each going to have two sides, right? They're going to have the public side, sort of culinary aesthete, and then the abjected side. Um, maybe like aghast. Okay, for living rooms and music room, we've got, I mean, probably just like a musician. So public face, musician. Um, That's cacophonous. Uh-oh. This has happened before. It doesn't like it when I do that. Okay. Cacophonous and um I mean they're all violent. I was gonna write violent, but I was like, no, they're all violent. Um we'll say rude, but I need a word that's like 4 steps beyond that. Um Maybe an actual librarian. Um, yeah, yeah. Illusions, maybe forced movement. Um, Skulking. Something like that. And then the wife of the patron. Um, what was I gonna say? She's probably like, what's the word I'm looking at? The perfect host. And then the abjected side. It's probably lures, traps, and other. Um, the patron would have to be defined in some way. It's pretty easy to think that there's a banshee kind of situation going on here. I don't know that the monster manual has a ghost that kind of gets in here for illusions and forced movement and everything. Um, I mean, heck, an imp, right? We can make some kind of spirit version of an imp. Like use imp as a baseline. And then again, I don't think there's. maybe just the actual ghost. Um, okay. Okay, I can work with all of that. So, last thing I guess is just the patron himself. Oh, goodness. We'll say an exemplar and you know, the patron's probably the weakest out of all of them. I imagine once you get to the patron, this is like the final discovery, right? I don't think they fight the patron at all. They just open the last door, they see the galleries, and yeah. Yeah, I think we got a thing going. So, the hook, I still kind of need a hook to get the party involved. Probably, like I said, probably the main beatific are trying to scrub out what they see as the imperfect elements of their town. Um, so I imagine Something like that. There's a person whose parent went missing for a while. When the parent returned, they were completely changed. Recognizable only in features, their looks had become beautiful, their demeanor gentle. They were totally unlike who they were before. Kind of ugly, rude and crass, but ultimately lovable. Now the parent is just like a facade, lacking depth, lacking laughter. This person reaches out to the party to go to the patron's place and find out what happened. Alternatively, the patron calls upon the party to defend their house. People in town are starting to suspect foul play but can't prove it. Um, if they accept the too generous financial reward, the party is drawn into the hauntings as night falls. Uh, yeah, so I think in terms of the stat blocks that exist, zombies are a good choice. Like I said, up here, some kind of ghast, maybe a banshee, maybe just a regular ghost, maybe an imp. Maybe we remake a mage, but that is the timer. We are out of time. Well, that gives us a lot to work with. We've got we traveled pretty far from where we started. I started with this idea of the Dollmaker trope. I started after that. I kind of went through some things I wanted to avoid because dolls are, creepy dolls are sort of in vogue right now, um, and I wanted to find my own take. In the process, I um, kind of came across these different moods: loneliness, replacing loss or lack, and perfectionism. And of the doll tropes that are going on right now, most of them don't have this perfectionistic angle, I think. Um, Started thinking about constructs, inspired to make the perfect doll. And then this stepping stone, they're artistically inclined, got us into Dorian Gray and inverting the Dorian Gray story from, the artist making a painting of themselves to making paintings of others as a kind of service. And that brings us to this uncanny town full of beautiful people. Um, and yeah, we just kind of went off from there, right? Kind of settled on five main sort of beautified characters. Their paintings are all held in the patron's house, and the patron's house is haunted by the spirits of all of these abjected elements. And from there, just kind of figured out what are they like in public, and then what's the opposite side that is present in the master's in the master's house. Um, yeah, I think that'll do it for today. Eventually, I think I'll make a Patreon, and these will be made available. The kind of write-ups will be made available, and the patrons will be able to vote on which adventures they want to see given, you know, a more professional treatment. Kind of get their own write-up. Um, Maybe depending on how successful it is, hire out some artists to make some maps, to make some character portraits, and then maybe eventually sell them on what is it, the DM's Guild, things like that. But for now, I think that will do it for today. Thanks for anybody who managed to stop in and watch for a little bit. I wasn't really watching chat, but if you stopped in and I didn't see you, thanks for popping by. And this will show up on the 1 hour one shot YouTube as well for people who missed it. All right. Thank you. I'll see you next time.